In 1960s Los Angeles, after the catastrophic Watts riots, an outsized character emerged, one who found an unexpected way to unite people across race and class. Odds are you've never heard of him. So reads the captivating intro to LA Times reporter Daniel Miller's docuseries about Big Willie Robinson, a 6'6", muscle-bound street racer who preached peace throughout Los Angeles.
And the reason that I became Big Willie because of the Los Angeles Times. The Los Angeles Times did a big article on street racing. They had one big picture there with me standing there holding the money. And the owner of the Los Angeles Times was a billionaire, Otis Chandler, and they called me Big Willie.
Before we talk about Big Willie, set the stage for us, 1960s Los Angeles Watts.
Sure, so this is a time of turmoil in Los Angeles. In 1965, South LA erupted with the Watts riots, and the riots pit police against civilians and pit community members against each other. Many people died. There was catastrophic property damage and thousands of arrests. The National Guard had to be called in to try to bring order to the city. And it was really a black mark on Los Angeles. For a city in an era that was really moving forward and making great strides, this was an ugly time and an ugly episode. Los Angeles was segregated in many ways. Much of the city's African-American population lived on the city's south side. And this led to some of the tension that erupted during the Watts riots. These days, people look back at the 60s as an era of great change, the civil rights movement, oftentimes lose sight of the intense struggle to get there. And that's where Big Willie Robinson comes into the story. Big Willie Robinson is a 6'6", muscle-bound titan. After his military service, arrives in Los Angeles in 1966, and the rubble's still on the ground in South Los Angeles. And he has this idea, an idea that he had fostered for a long time, that cars could unite people. He'd seen it in his hometown of New Orleans, and he thought that something as simple as getting people to work on cars together, to race cars, could help heal the city. And he started to do it, not really in an organized fashion, but he quickly gained a following. I mean, like we said, he really is larger than life, and people got in line.
And he was uniting gangs, right? Tell us who he touched.
That's right. So Big Willie and his mission really touched this incredible swath of Los Angeles. So he was a guy who could bring together Crips and Bloods and get them to set aside their differences and race cars. Millionaires, movie stars, with guys who were fresh out of jail. You never really knew who you might see when, he was staging his races.
The racers, the cops came in incognito looking like they were street racers too. Yeah. So they walk up to the white racers and say, hey, aren't you scared being down here? The Watts riots was just a year ago, and now you're in Watts after midnight, and aren't you afraid? And they said no, because it's all about racing.
From Steve McQueen to the mayor of Los Angeles.
That's right. So one of his biggest benefactors was Mayor Tom Bradley, the 5-term mayor, LA's first and only African-American mayor. Tom Bradley was a huge benefactor of Willie's, and you could see Bradley out at Willie's racetrack.
It helps build brotherhood. They are built upon the theme of brotherhood through street racing.
He was trying to stop illegal street racing, too. He was trying to unite everyone around this car culture. But he didn't want them getting in trouble doing illegal street racing, so he founded a racetrack. Tell us about the, what was it called, Brotherhood Raceway?
That's right, Brotherhood Raceway Park.
Tell us about that.
So Brotherhood Raceway Park, it sounds like a place you'd have to invent because it's just such a wild idea. On a stretch of city-owned land in the Port of Los Angeles, he opened a raceway with the help of Mayor Tom Bradley and other benefactors.
We are in history now. See, at our track on Terminal Island, we did something that's never been done before. We used racing to stop killings.
It was a drag strip where basically everyone was invited. That meant Crips and Bloods, that meant people like Otis Chandler, the publisher of the LA Times, and some of the movie stars that were in Willie's orbit. And they would all come together to race cars, and it really was a place where people's differences melted away. as part of our reporting project, I interviewed several people in law enforcement, past and present, and nearly everyone said that it was tangible. Crime went down when the track was open.
Why isn't he a household name?
Well, it's true. Big Willie did sort of fade into obscurity. I think part of it is just that a lot of the story took place quite some time ago. And, you know, in some ways, Big Willie was great at grabbing the spotlight, but it was almost always in support of his mission. I think that, you know, had he been at work today, he might be better known.
To have social media, right? Exactly.
That's right.
So you're doing a podcast, LA Times Studio, the same people that brought us Dirty John and Man in the Window, which is about the accused Golden State Killer. Why do podcasts work so well for the storytelling of the LA Times writers?
Well, I think one of the amazing things about audio storytelling is that there's a real intimacy with the tales. You know, for better or worse, people are going to be listening to my voice in their ears or in their car. But it's not just about the host, it's really about the characters and the world that we can create. So when you listen to this podcast, you're gonna hear some great funk music, you're gonna hear disco, you're gonna hear rock and roll from the 60s and 70s. And I think you can create a world that's just so immersive.
July 14th, there's going to be a special print companion in the paper that will go along with it, and there's going to be bonus material on the web as well, right?
That's right. We're building a really rich website with all sorts of material, whether it's videos, photos, or archival documents. And one thing I should mention is that, you know, Big Willie was covered by the Los Angeles Times back in the day, and we've been surfacing on our Facebook group tons of old stories so that people can get a sense of what he was to LA at that time.
Then I realized all this time I've been feeling guilty by coming home, surviving the war. And my buddies are still over there dying and losing parts of their bodies. But I come home and I'm still in one piece. It dawned on me, God spared me from dying in Vietnam to come home and be Big Willie.
Well, we wish you the best of luck with it, and hey, if it's anything like Dirty John, there'll be a movie production company calling you pretty soon. Thanks a lot, Daniel.
Thanks so much.
Larger Than Life is available on all podcast platforms with supplemental reporting and online resources at latimes.com/largerthanlife. Coming up, Grammy-winning singer Rick Springfield stopped by LA Times today to talk about his upcoming concert date and his little dog, too. We'll be right back.